Frank, I want to know what you think of when I show you this.
That's the SNICK couch, from back in the day. That was my Friday nights or Saturday nights whenever it came on.
Well, remember,
it was Saturdays, right?
Yeah, SNICK stood for Saturday Night Nick.
Yeah.
It debuted August 15th, 1992, and it ran until January 29th, 2005. It did have some reiterations in there, and they changed it around a little bit. We'll get to that here in just a moment. Now, at that time, television on Fridays and Saturdays, they weren't targeted towards viewers under 50 years old because it was believed that audience wasn't home watching television. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the 4 shows that debuted on SNICK?
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
There's one.
All That?
All That. It was on it, did not debut on it.
It was one of those, Wienerville?
No, but I remember Wienerville, and no, because the Wienerville was the one where it had the guy, he would stick his head, and then he had like little puppet hands and stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, fantastic.
Trying to think back. 92.
It's pretty difficult because essentially they repurposed 2 shows, and then there was 2 new shows. Are You Afraid of the Dark was one of the new shows.
Right.
The 2 repurposed shows, one was Ren and Stimpy.
Ren and Stimpy, okay. Yeah, because that came on late.
Yep. And then the other one was...
Clarissa Explains It All. That's right. They moved it over there. I forgot.
And then the other one, which
was actually pretty fantastic.
I loved Clarissa Explains It All. Although the one thing that I never understood was their obsession with Pearl Jam. Like, that was one of the things.
Mine was the giant ladder that this dude was always able to throw
climbing up to the house.
Window.
Yeah, that wasn't weird at all.
That was awesome. It's like Jim Varney was like, just go, hey, Vern.
Exactly.
Yeah, so Clarissa Explains It All and Ren and Stimpy were the 2 shows that already existed that they moved to SNICK. And then Are You Afraid of the Dark was an original. Roundhouse was the other original.
Yeah, like it was like all them dancing. That's what turned into All That.
Yes, I had completely forgot about this show.
That's right.
Go back.
Like all the sets would move. All the sets would move and stuff. Yeah.
I can look at this and still see the thing moving around.
Yep.
Like the whole,
the set,
Go back and watch episodes of Roundhouse because it was far more risque than you think it would be for Nickelodeon.
Well, because it was a bunch of like 20-something kids, wasn't it?
Well, there's one episode where they were talking about, I think it was like what happens when you get older. And then they had this cardboard thing behind them, and it was like mom's butt gets bigger. And then they pull this thing out that makes mom's butt look big. And then they were like, and Janie's not going to need to use that training bra anymore. And they have like the high school girl show up, and it makes it look like she has boobs. Like, yeah, it was way more out there than I ever remembered at that age. Now, a couple of years later, 3 new shows debuted. One of which you guys already mentioned. All That. Which was a fantastic show, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Pete and Pete.
Pete and Pete was awesome, though.
Yeah,
I never got into Pete and Pete. I never understood it.
When it was on just randomly, like they'd put it on, you'd have the little 30-minute episode, just the characters, and they had so many people that were up and coming in the business that were on that show that just had little small roles. Like Steve Buscemi was on that show at one point.
Devin and I just talked about that earlier.
Iggy Pop was on that show.
Yeah. Iggy Pop, Janine Garofalo. There was a bunch of other just
was on it.
Young comedians or people kind of like first getting their name in the business that would just for some reason pop up on Pete and Pete. This is the weirdest thing.
I always wanted to get into the show. I never could.
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was great. The Ice Cream Man freaked me out, though.
Now, the other show...
I remember him.
...that would end up debuting, I loved this show. I actually recorded this show.
Yeah, I thought it was... I was going to say it was Alex Mack. I couldn't think of the name. I was like, I think it was
may
Alex
or may
Mack.
not have been because I had a crush on Larissa Oleynik, but I also loved Secret World of Alex Mack. It was a fantastic show.
Like, hey, let's just dump some toxic waste on a kid.
Dunst's personality.
And she gets magical powers.
Daredevil, dude. Or Ninja Turtle. It was the whole dumping toxic waste and you kind of become a superhero.
Yep.
So the big orange couch. Oh, go ahead, Devlin.
Oh no, I remember getting her mixed up with Kirsten Dunst, and she was just easily the better of the two.
So the big orange couch was basically the mascot for SNICK. And then it was eventually retired in June of 1999, where they did a giveaway where it was stuffed with $25,000 and 6,000 cookies.
I think I remember that.
It did make a return, like a brief return in like 2000, 2001, but then that was pretty much it. And then by
that generation had aged out. Like the kids that grew up with that had aged out.
Yeah, it was kind of by the late 90s, early 2000s, you started to see the cracks forming within SNICK. Eventually, they had they revamped it in 99, and they called it SNICK House with Nick Cannon.
See, my thing was, it's like, yeah.
How many kids did he have then?
He had 2 at that point.
Well, there's 1, 2, 3.
My thing was, I think up until around 96, when I got old enough to like start seeing movies, that's when I watched SNICK from like 92 to 96 at 4 years. And then after that, Friday nights and Saturday nights, depending on what movies came out, I was at the mall, watching movies. Yeah. So I think that's when they started having their issues. People stopped watching because it was TGIF Fridays and then SNICKs on Saturdays was your weekend.
Yeah, you're right.
Old enough to go to the mall.
That was kind of the golden age of TV, man.
TGIF Fridays aged up. They changed their programming and like get everybody older. Like you'd have wasn't even Saved by the Bell College years on TGI Friday for one?
I don't remember what was on.
Well, that was the problem with Nick. Nick wanted it to be like it was run by kids. Like that was their whole premises was it's like, Nickelodeon's supposed to be run by kids for kids. So all their programming was kind of Disney oriented, I guess you could say.
Yeah, but 4 years in kids' lifestyle is a huge mental shift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big time.
If you want something a little more updated, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you had the SNICK House with Nick Cannon. They would usually have a celebrity or music group would make an appearance. But then SNICK would be canceled on July 1st, 2001, and it was actually replaced by Nickflix, where it's basically a 90-minute Nicktoon special. Yeah, and it was just something that was completely off. And then on January 19th, 2002, a brand new SNICK began with a new lineup and an all-new cast of all that. And finally, on September 4th, 2004, SNICK was quietly rebranded as Saturday Night on Nickelodeon, but they still used the term SNICK in live on-air segments, but eventually it would die out.